today Dr. Anthony McCarthy from the Society for the Protection of the Unborn Children.
And author of Abortion Matters.
Yes, right.
Abortion
matters.
Yeah.
Does abortion matter?
Oh, I don't know.
Well,
it depends how that sentence is said.
Yeah, Anthony, welcome to the program. So, presumably, people like you will just continue to go on and try and subjugate women who can't get an abortion easily to live a life they don't want.
Well, we'll certainly continue to oppose abortion. We'll support women as best we can in pregnancy, and we'll say that killing unborn children is never the answer.
Yeah, that's fine, and you're entitled to your views, but you're not entitled to impose your views or your way of life or your beliefs on somebody else, are you?
Well, I mean, any law is about imposing something, if you see what I mean. But we're talking about protecting one set of human beings and trying to find a humane solution to very difficult problems. I mean,
it works very well the way it is. If a woman finds she's pregnant, she doesn't want to have a child, she has an abortion. And a woman who's lucky enough to be able to get it as soon as she finds out she's pregnant, that seems to be the best way to deal with it. Why would anybody else want to stick their nose in?
Well, we've had about 9 million abortions since the 67 Act, and that wasn't what anybody said they wanted or thought was a good thing.
It doesn't matter, does it? Why does it matter? What is the problem? Does it matter how many? Why would it matter?
Well, many people who think that abortion is a tragedy, at least.
Well, don't have an abortion. If you don't want to have one, don't have one. You're not forced to have one.
Well, first of all, there are two people involved, so one person is being forced to have their life terminated. But secondly, an awful lot of women tell us and tell other people, that they are coerced, that they're pressured. There's an awful lot of boyfriends, husbands who don't want to pay maintenance, and abortion's a quick solution. And what we're saying is these women do need.
Listen, you might have a one. Well, so if you are. Let me get this right. Look, if you've had sex and you don't really want to see the person again, or you've no interest in the person or whatever, and you had consensual sex, it is up to the person who is pregnant, obviously the woman, to decide whether or not she wants to change her life and have a child. I don't see why the man who, has to be brought into this at all. In fact, it's funny how so many men have such a point of view about this, whether they want it or not. It's men who keep talking about it. It's up to a woman. It should be left entirely to the woman and to her medical advisor, surely.
Well, let's just unpack a few things there. I mean, first of all, I'd say in the situation you talked about, it's very, very sad if a man walks out on a woman and leaves her in that situation. I think that
life is very sad, and life is full of problems.
Sure, but that doesn't mean we should encourage bad things. On the contrary, we need to say,
we're not encouraging it, are we?
Well, let's not.
Why would that encourage it? Why would that encourage it? And if you're telling me that you think some people use abortion as a form of contraception, do you believe that?
That's how some people speak.
Well, if they do, then they're not fit and proper people to bring up a child, are they?
Well, but the question is, does a child...
No, the question is, it's got nothing to do with you or me, Anthony. It has to do with a woman who finds herself pregnant, who should be able to make an easy choice without having to try and justify what she wants to do.
Well, I suppose what we're saying is pregnancy is a really important thing, and you are dealing, and this is sort of skirting around the issue, but you are dealing with a new human life, a very early new human life. But under our law, you could be dealing with a 9-month-old life, which can still be legally killed.
Well, I think that is something we should change.
That's not true, though, is it? You can't have an
abortion. The 1990 HFEA Act allows
only if it isn't viable.
For disability up to birth. So, when you see disabled people, many of the disability groups are very upset about this kind of thing because they say it completely devalues their life.
I can understand that, but it has to be up. Listen, it has to be up to the person who is in the situation. Maybe there are some people who just could not handle bringing up a disabled child. I don't know. I mean, I am not that person. I don't have a right to make a decision for that person.
Well,
Nor
but
do
I
you.
mean, I come back to we've got two people involved here. You see, you keep
don't
talking
come
as
back
though
to it. Don't come back to it because a lot of people don't agree with it.
Okay, but you keep talking as though the unborn child has no.
Well, it doesn't. The unborn child has no. The unborn child has not become a human being.
Well, I think that's just biologically wrong. I mean, you're talking about a new human being from the moment of conception. That's how you and I started. We didn't change into something else.
We're not talking about a new human being from conception.
Well, no, you are. I mean, that really is just biological fact. I mean, even if we disagree about it.
Hang on. No, we're not. We're not talking about
well, what do you think happens at conception? What comes into being?
What are you talking about? A bunch of cells get together.
Two cells.
Yeah, no, but when they fuse together, that's the moment of conception, and you have a new human being that's not part of the mother and it's not part of the father, and it has all your DNA, and you continue to develop from that point. You know that you don't change into something else. It doesn't stop. Okay, right. That's when
it's not really a human being when the sperm goes in the egg. You're saying that's a human being, and it's not really a being, is it?
Well, no, it is. It's a new human organism.
It's a human, but not
anything else. Well, it's a member of the human species, and it's the offspring of the mother and the father, and it develops in its own independent way.
Fine. Let me get back. Listen, let me get back to the point. Right, that's okay. If that's what you believe, fine. That's fine.
Well, it's a scientific fact. That's not really a.
It's what you believe. That's fine. I don't. And I don't give a stuff about whether it's a scientific fact. I don't consider that to be a viable human being with views and responsibilities. I don't.
Well, it doesn't have views and responsibilities yet. But if you're
I don't believe that. Well, some people don't want it to develop. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to a woman who says, I'm not having a child, I'm having it aborted, and okay, there we are, Dr. Anthony McCarthy, he's made the laws. What are you're going to sit in judgment on a woman and say, you can't do that, madam, you are a criminal, you're a murderess. That's what you're going to say to somebody. That's lovely, isn't it, Anthony?
Well, what I would say is, this isn't any kind of solution to any kind of problem. It's not medicine, it's not healing anything. It's a social decision to destroy a new human life. And what that woman really needs, instead of men walking away from her and people saying, yeah, it's disposable, it's disabled, is as much help as possible in bringing up that child and being supported in pregnancy.
They don't get that, do they?
Disabled, what a patronising attitude that is. I've never heard anything quite so patronising. That's Listen, I don't want pretend I'm a woman. I don't want your care and concern. I just want rid of this potential human being. I don't have the time in my life, nor do I have the wish to be a parent. I want rid. At that point, that person should be given as much help to dispose of it as soon as possible, surely.
Well, I mean, obviously I can see why you think that, but I would ask you, you might say, would you say that for a woman with a 9-month-old or a newborn baby where the same kind of burdens are going to be present, that you say, look, we can just tidy away this baby like they used to in the olden days.
Why do people, when you're losing the argument, why do you always do that? Why do you do that when you people lose the argument? You start. Would you say that about a newborn baby? No, of course you wouldn't. That would be murder.
Because there is a very obvious continuum, and some newborn babies will be the same age as the baby that you're talking about in an abortion. So it's not. It's not a trivial.
If it's a very late abortion, and I would like to see abortion on demand for women who truly don't want to have a child as soon as possible. So you've not got to the situation where you have a viable fetus. I would like to see abortion carried out as soon as possible.
So you're against the present law, presumably, which allows a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think late abortion, unless it is because it is a risk.
Why is late abortion such a problem? If you think that this isn't really a person or anything like that.
Unless it was, if you listen to what I'm going to say. Unless the late abortion is because it could be dangerous to the mother to have that child, and we've all seen stories where mothers have been affected very badly, some even died, or the fetus is going to be born dead anyway.
Well, what if it's, say, a Down syndrome fetus at 8 months? Now, 90% of Down syndrome babies are aborted. Okay, very distressing figure.
I again would probably say that's down to the. I would say that's probably down to the parents to decide, wouldn't you? Are you going to force the parents to have? Why? You can tell whether a child has Down syndrome earlier than that as well.
Well,
yes,
certainly earlier than 8 months, but nevertheless, it's not as early as you might think, and sometimes people, make decisions later. And the point is, legally, you're allowed to. That's my point. I would speak to some Down syndrome people who are horrified by that thought that
a member of my family has Down syndrome. I don't need to talk to people. A member of my family has Down syndrome. They are much loved, much wanted by their parents. Great. That is not the question we are talking about.
What if you told them there was a law that lethally discriminated against them and not other babies? I
don't think they'd actually understand, but there we are.
What would you say? I mean, when there was a lady a few years ago, well, about 20 years ago, she had 8 children from some IVF or something, and they said you've got to take some out because they will all die if some of them aren't removed, and they did all die because she refused to have them have any. What would you say to that, where it's dependent on survival of some of them, that others would have to be terminated?
Well, I don't know the sort of exact specifics of the case, so...
It was a massive story. I can't remember her name, but it was a massive story.
I very vaguely remember. Well, I suppose the question is, are these babies already dead? Are you delivering them? Are you sort of lethally invading them? Now, normally the way they do it in a situation like that would be to give a lethal injection to the babies. And I think that can't really be justified as medicine.
They all die, though, the babies, if you don't take them.
It was okay for them all to die. Can I ask you...
as a general principle in life, we don't generally think it's okay to kill some people in order to save others, to directly kill them.
Are you a medical doctor?
I'm not, no, medical ethics.
No, okay, I didn't think you were.
No, I work with medical doctors, but no.
I'm sure you do, annoying people.
Why
on earth should somebody... What sort of doctor are you, anyway? What sort of doctor?
Medical ethics. So
why do you use the... If you're not a doctor and talking about... Why do you use the term doctor in front of your name? Because it's confusing to people, isn't it?
It's a title I have. It's a title I have. I certainly absolutely upfront to any researchers that ask exactly what I am and... Yeah. What I do, and you can certainly have medical doctors on if you want. But I mean, if you want some,
I can have anybody on I want at all. Thank you very much.
Sure.
So you presumably you agree that a girl who's been raped or there's been incest in the family or something like that, you don't think they should be allowed an abortion either?
No, I don't think abortion is a solution to the wrong of rape. I think it's another wrong on top of
So if I had a daughter of 13 who'd been raped and she was pregnant, I would have to make her go. In your world, I would have to make her go through the pregnancy.
Well, I think what you'd have to do is
now answer the question.
Well, I don't think she should have an abortion.
Yes or no?
You want that kind of answer?
Yes or no?
The
yes
answer
or no?
To the question is if she should have abortion is no, she shouldn't. But one needs.
Have you got children?
One would want to say a lot of other things in that.
Have you got children?
I mean, I do.
And if you had a child who was in that, you would force her to go through and have the child?
Well, what I'd say is, I don't think destroying your child that's come about in those awful ways is actually going to solve the problem, and I don't think it's going to help. As we know,
and if your daughter said, "Look, I understand what you say, Dad, but I don't want this anywhere near me. It reminds me of a terrible, terrible situation. I want rid." What would you help her?
Well, I'd offer to adopt. I'd do everything I could to try and persuade her not to take that decision.
Yeah, but if she insisted, if she said, "Look, I don't want this," would you help her?
I wouldn't help her to destroy her own child, not least because I know people, and probably you do, who are the results of rape, and they're very clear.
I don't know that I do.
They wouldn't have wanted that. Well, statistically, if you know enough people, you probably do. I certainly know people who are aware of their conception. And the point is, the way we were conceived, we don't all know exactly how we were conceived.
All right,
the way we were
Listen,
conceived doesn't change our value.
Yeah. The problem here is this: I respect your right to have your views, but you don't respect other people's rights if they disagree with you, and you don't want them to be able to choose a different path to the one which you want to inflict on people, and that isn't fair.
Well, I respect your right to interrogate me, and I think you're very good at it. But at the end of the day, the law is going to support one side or the other. If you have a law that allows abortion, then what we're saying is an awful lot of unborn children are silenced, and it violates their choices. So there isn't a neutral stance on this one. That's why we sort of fundamentally disagree. But to say one side is against choices, what we're concerned is about what these choices are, and we think certain choices should never be sanctioned by law. And the other side, presumably, your side, disagrees.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see where this debate, for the moment, Anthony, thank you very much indeed, Dr. Anthony McCarthy from the Society for the Protection of Unborn Children. Very good evening. Welcome back, the James Welsh Show. Can I just say, just as a matter of interest, because this debate about abortion comes up time and time again, and it's really good to discuss it with somebody who doesn't have a hairy fit and storm off getting all upset when they're questioned. I've got to say respect to Anthony McCarthy, because he was prepared to talk about it and not get all upset. And that's the thing about debates. You often watch that in the House of Commons, and sometimes they can't help themselves. They get all upset. And interestingly enough, a lot of the people from the pro-life side of this argument are unable to have any kind of debate without getting very upset and shouting and jumping up and down. But Anthony McCarthy was, I have to say, very good, very measured, and well done to him. And I tried always to push his buttons, and I couldn't. So well done.